If you're jumping into Xdefiant for the first time or switching over from another shooter game, I've got a list of tips that helped me go from around a 1 KD to consistently over a 2 KD. Now, some of these apply to many FPS games, but in Xdefiant, there are some subtle gameplay mechanics that you might not notice, especially if you're not used to hero shooters or games with character abilities. These tips all stack together, so make sure that you watch until the end of the video so you don't miss out on any one of them. You might just find that one of these tips was the missing piece to your gameplay, and then everything just starts to click for you. If any one of them sticks out to you as particularly helpful, or if you have any tips yourself, drop them in the comments below. These are in no particular order, so we're just gonna jump right in. Tip number 1, aim for the head. Very simple and obvious, yes, but hitting headshots reduces the number of bullets and time to kill considerably compared to recent shooter games. Mixing in just 2 headshots is easily enough to help you come out on top and start winning more gunfights. On most weapons, it reduces the time to kill by roughly 20 to 25%, and in a game where every small advantage matters, that is a massive difference. Number 2, learn the recoil patterns. While I was testing weapons in the firing range, I noticed that almost every single gun has a similar recoil pattern, with a few exceptions that we'll go over. So if you learn one, you kind of learn them all. On screen are the recoil patterns of the ARs, SMGs, and LMGs. Almost every single weapon kicks up and to the right, with the exception of the MDR, M60, and M29 being up and to the left, and the Vector having a recoil pattern that's basically straight up. When it comes to controlling the recoil, I noticed something that feels a little different in Xdefiant compared to other shooter games, and maybe it's just me, so let me know in the comments if you've experienced this, but in Xdefiant, the weapon recoil starts off much more aggressively than in other shooter games, requiring you to pull down and control it faster. I feel like in other games, the recoil starts off fairly mild, and over time becomes more aggressive, but here in Xdefiant, I noticed that if I started pulling down quite a bit the second I started firing, I was landing a lot more shots and winning more fights, especially at those medium to longer ranges. Not so much up close, because in those engagements there's a built-in feature that actually removes recoil entirely, which brings me to my next tip, number 3, take advantage of recoil smoothing. What is recoil smoothing? It's a built-in feature where it measures how much you're moving your aim horizontally, and if you're moving your aim enough, it actually removes the recoil entirely. Recoil is a non-factor in those close range gunfights, because a lot of times people are jumping back and forth and you're moving your aim so fast to keep up with them that recoil smoothing kicks in and the recoil is no longer a factor. Xdefiant isn't the first game to do this, it's also a feature in Apex Legends, so if you're coming over from that game, I'm sure this will be easy to pick up. Now, not every situation you're going to be tracking or aiming so fast that you can get the recoil smoothing to kick in, but there are some ways to game the system, which pairs up nicely with my next tip. Number 4, always mix in a strafe, crouch, and jump in every gunfight. Now, you don't want to be the person spamming everything nonstop, because while that might make you a difficult target to hit, it will also make it incredibly hard for you to aim. But how does that tie into what we talked about with recoil smoothing? Well, when you're strafing in a gunfight, you obviously have to compensate by tracking your enemy, but if you do something called counter strafing, meaning you strafe in the opposite direction your enemy is moving, then you'll be moving your aim much more to stay on target, and recoil smoothing will kick in, making it easier to land your shots. Combine strafing with a crouch or 2 in there and you'll be much more difficult to hit, and you'll be winning so many more gunfights. Alright, I'm pretty sure that's the last time I'm going to say strafe in this video. Tip number 5, learn to pull the trigger before you aim down sights. There's a noticeable sprint to fire delay in this game, meaning if you're sprinting and you pull the trigger, bullets will not come out until the delay time has expired. What most people do is start to aim down sight and then start firing, but you actually want to do this in reverse because of the sprint out time. Pull the trigger first and then start aiming down your sights so that bullets come out as fast as possible. If you do this and your enemy doesn't, you'll likely get 1 or 2 bullets out before they do, and if you're on target, there's very little chance that they win that gunfight. Now, you do have to be careful, because if you pull up on an enemy that's standing still, they actually don't have a sprint to fire delay because, well, they're not sprinting and they can shoot immediately. So if you're slide jumping around corners and feel like you're getting melted, there's a good chance this is part of the reason why. I know the servers and hit registration aren't perfect, but in a lot of matches it's completely fine, and you're dying to things like this rather than just the servers being bad. If you're enjoying the video so far and found it at all helpful, consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing for more Xdefiant and first-person shooter content. On to number 6, avoid taking on more than one enemy at a time, especially if they're all looking at you. Since the time to kill in this game is on the slower side, the chances that you'll be able to successfully kill 2 or 3 enemies at once is incredibly low. Now, what you can do is use cover to your advantage and slice the pie, so to speak, by using cover to break line of sight so that you only take on one enemy at a time. And if you do take out that first enemy, you also have the option to back out of the gunfight, reposition, reload, and heal if you took too much damage. Which brings me to tip number 7, swap swapping to your pistol dramatically increases your movement speed. While this is great for getting into the action faster after a respawn, it's actually incredibly useful for getting out of gunfights or repositioning. If you walk around a corner and see 3 enemies all holding hands and you're following the last tip, then you know you need to back out, reposition, or wait for teammates. In those situations where you know you won't be firing your weapon, it's great to swap to the pistol for that extra speed to make you harder to hit and get you back to cover safely as fast as possible. Number 8, take advantage of the kill assist feature in Xdefiant. You're awarded a kill assist when you do most of the damage to an enemy and one of your teammates finishes the kill with that last bullet. Kill assists actually count as kills towards your KD. I think this is the best system instead of something like a Black Ops 4 or Cold War where all the assists just counted as kills, leading to inflated stats. Now, what I mean by take advantage of this feature is that in those situations where the enemy just needs one more bullet and it's risky to stay in the fight to finish the kill because you're either low health or there are other enemies nearby, it's more advantageous to back out, let your teammates finish the kill, and stay alive to keep fighting. This is especially important because Xdefiant really leans into the teamwork and objective aspects of the game, so staying alive and not having to wait out the respawn timer and run all the way back to the action is a massive benefit to your team, especially when it comes to being able to stick around and support your teammates with your abilities and continuing to play the objectives. Number 9, learn to cook grenades. I know this is simple, but I've noticed a lot of people feel like grenades are very underwhelming. Now, they do seem to have a smaller area of effect, but I think the issue here is just how long they take to explode. The player HUD actually gives you really useful information on how long to cook your grenade for. 1 bar for a long distance throw, 2 bars for medium throws, and if you want the grenade to explode right on impact, hold it until you see 3 bars. Now, I'm sure a lot of people already picked up on this, but I just wanted to mention it here for people just jumping into the game. Number 10, have an exit strategy. In every gunfight, have an idea in the back of your mind where you're going to retreat to in case things start to go south. This could be a piece of cover, a doorway, or just back to where your teammates are behind you. Now, this comes with playtime and learning the maps, but always having a place to reposition to in the back of your mind will save you so many times because you don't have to look around or think where you're going if you've taken too much damage or rounded the corner with 3 enemies staring you down. Number 11, you and your teammates' abilities work better together, so stack them. For example, when a phantom player on your team uses their bubble ultimate, play inside of it and escort them either around the map or use it to take an objective. I hate that I'm about to recommend this, but you can even use the Libertad ult, the team healing, inside of the bubble to basically make everybody invincible. If you stack these things together, you're basically guaranteed to capture any objective. The enemy is forced to either stand there and let you take it, or try to challenge you and probably die. This is just one example, but there are tons of ways to use the abilities by working with your team and using them together instead of just constantly spamming them the second they become available. Which brings me to tip number 12, play with and learn all of the factions and their abilities in the game so that you understand their strengths, but more importantly, how to counter them. Here are some quick examples. An EMP takes out phantom shields. DeadSec's disruption ultimate cancels all ultimate abilities in use and prevents players from triggering any abilities while disrupted. This is incredibly useful for when you see things like revealed by sonar goggles pop up on your screen, and there's almost no counter to this as they can see you through walls and have an incredibly strong pistol, but with DeadSec's disruption, it shuts it down right away. Again, the list here could go on and on, but this video is more of an overview and not an in-depth guide of each faction. So give each one of them a try, pay attention to how you best leverage their abilities, but also how other players are countering you. Number 13, cover, cover, cover. With how fast the movement speed in this game is and the map designs, it's really easy to get caught out in the open. While there's plenty of cover on all these maps, there are also a ton of wide open spaces. Best case scenario, you run into an enemy who's also out in the open and you have a 50-50 even gunfight. Worst case scenario, you're caught out in the open against an enemy that is playing on cover and your chances to win that gunfight go down dramatically. We want to be the one with the most advantage in every fight, so instead of running as fast as you can through the map, slow it down and move from cover to cover to cover. This isn't the fastest way to get around the map, but you'll be the one catching people out in the open and not the other way around. Number 14, never challenge snipers. If you see a sniper glint aiming at you, do not stand there and try to challenge. Snipers in their current state are incredibly strong, have very little flinch, and one shot to most parts of the body. So if you see that glint, turn around and run the other way. If you really need to challenge that person, reposition and try to take them out from the side where they can't see you. And number 15, this one is a little bit of a bonus tip because it doesn't help your gameplay per se, but after a match, you get an extra 100 XP for giving your teammates a thumbs up, and you get an extra 200 XP for every person that gives you a thumbs up. Not the most helpful, I know, but for those of you that like to squeeze a little bit more out of each match and like to min-max everything in the game, this one's for you. If you feel like I missed anything in this tips video, drop a comment comment down below and let us know what's been working for you, as well as just your thoughts on Xdefiant as a whole. I know I've really been enjoying it. Drop a like on the video, don't forget to subscribe. If you like this video and want to watch another one like it, click here.